What's good, YouTube? Warstorm here, coming at you guys with another video today. Today I'll be bringing you an updated Pendulum Magician deck profile. I was doing some breezing through some of my recent videos, and I found I hadn't updated this deck in a while. I did play it at the regional not too long ago, but I had a really just awful performance, probably the worst performance I've had in a while. Which I shouldn't be as long as I've been playing this deck, but I am pretty happy with the way it is now. But that being said, it's not by no means perfect, so if you guys have any suggestions or changes you guys would recommend, please let me know down in the comments section down below, because again, I'm always I will be showing you guys the side deck later as well. But anyways, all the way, we'll go ahead and get the deck profile. So this is pretty standard, you know, with the 3 chronographs and the 1 time gazer. Chronograph, I actually, you do need to play the time gazer still, because obviously this guy will just sit in your hand if you don't, it'll just sit in your hand if you don't have the time gazer. The main thing is it does a couple of things. It allows you to get Electromite online early, which is good, but much like Astrograph, it activates in hand when a card you control is destroyed, but instead of, you know, searching cards, it allows you to special summon things from the hand. And that's actually can be really good in a lot of situations for extending combos and getting things, special summoning things out of your hand you might not normally be able to. It's actually pretty dang good. And Time Gazer actually is not, if you keep it on the board, it actually can protect your scales. So if you're going second and your opponent has, you know, might have some kind of quick effect pop, like you think they have a Twin Twister or something set, well, you can just leave this out, and then when they try to Twin Twister, your effects will still go through because this will go protect them. So it's actually really good as well. And Chronograph's also level 6 for Dorito plays, so it's pretty dang good. It's also an 8 scale, which is nice because you don't really play as many low scales in this build. I don't. So 3 Harmonizing Magician. Again, this is probably the best card in the entire archetype. I mean, it's at 1 in the OCG for a reason. Basically, when she's Pendulum Summon, you can grab any Magician from your deck, which is amazing for being able to set up, you know, your Vortex plays a lot more consistently, even without Astrograph. And her Pendulum effect actually combos well with a new addition I've added to the extra deck. I'm not going to, you know, spoil it now, but obviously, you know, this card is pretty dang good. A 1 card, you know, whatever you need is pretty dang nice. Then we still rock 3 Wisdom Eye Magician. I know when Starving Venom and the whole, like, the Electromite, you know, domestic abuse thing was a thing, you'd probably play, you know, people didn't really play this card because it wasn't a dark monster, but this card is just still so damn good. Being able to pop it to set whatever Magician from your deck you need is really amazing, and it's a lone fire. It's a lone fire for Pendulum monsters. There's not really too much to say about that. The card's amazing. Then for the other, you know, kind of magicians, we have the 2 Purple Boys and 2 Black Fang. So these went down to, purple went down to 2 in this build because I find that the card is still really good, but you don't really need it as much because now kind of Pendulums are more of a, while they can go second very effectively, you kind of want to go first, and these cards aren't as good going first as they are going second. That being said, Purple Poison being able to pop things is really good. There's an Altergeist, one of the times the Altergeist player was playing against me, he tried to strike it in the extra deck and it still gets the pop, even under things like Solemn Strike from the extra deck, which is amazing with both these cards. So if you are running into Altergeist, and a lot of them do play Solemns, this really helps because it gives you a way to get your monsters on, you know, still be able to establish a board through Solemns, which is great. And Purple Poison being able to pump up any Dark Spellcaster, as well as Black Fang being able to grab any Dark Spellcaster back from the grave, is really good. Again, I'm running 2 in this build because, you know, I want to see kind of some more of the other combo pieces. Then we have 2, for the last 3 magicians, we have the 2 Oak Dragon and 1 Yankee Magician. Yankee's monster effect actually comes up a lot more than I thought it would. I was playing against dinosaurs, and one of the things I did was, this was sitting in the grave because he managed to bait all my negates and then Regeki my board. So I had this sitting in the grave, so I used Black Fang to res this and knock down his Tyranno and get over it. So it's actually really good in that regard for being able to, like, you can use it to, when your opponent activates effects and you want to bait them, that's really good. It also can be pretty good against Trickstar, you know, if they don't do summon Candino with this guy out, and you can actually use it to negate it, so in case if they have a Licorice, they have it, but it's actually really good for that as well as being a rank 7 fodder. Oak Dragon 2's been the standard number I've been running ever since I've been playing this deck, so I don't see too much reason not to. Then I'll fetch Magicians back from your extra deck while it's the Pendulum Zone is really dang good. Then, of course, we got kind of the standard engine, which you got, of course, the 3 Dark Worms, the 2 Gate Zeros. So glad to finally have my Holo Dark Worms. But anyways, Dark Worm is still, I think, one of the next better normal summons. Being able to shove it in the graveyard with things like Foolish and Dragon Shrine is great. However, the reason I still play 2 Gate Zeros despite Astrograph being banned is because there's a lot of times when you want to have one in scale and then one to Pendulum summon to make your plays. That's one of the reasons why I still like having the second one, because in this particular kind of a build, you don't have since I'm not playing things like Duelist Alliance, you don't have as consistent access to things like Pendulum Call. So that's one of the reasons why I kind of like having the second Gate Zero, and these ratios have been working really well for me. Then, of course, we're still playing the Mythical Beast package in form of 3 Cerberus and 2 Jackal King. I have a love-hate relationship with these cards. Now, Jackal King is absolutely great because it synergizes really well with the entire archetype, being that it's a dark attribute. But Cerberus, on the other hand, it's debatable. The problem I have with Cerberus is that it's a light attribute. It'd be better if it was a dark, because you could, do other things with it. But them being spellcaster, they can be a little bricky at times, but they still help you to get Electromite on the board quickly, which is, again, what you typically want to do with this deck. And Jackal King having kind of like a free negate as well as, but it's a love-hate relationship. It can be a little bricky, but I still like having it. If you don't like these cards, you could just play Duelist Alliance and some other targets for it, or Curtain Raiser, which has been doing well in some of my other builds and testing. Then we have one of the kind of a newest edition, which is the 2 copies of Avion. It's been pretty good in testing. I just find that a lot of decks have trouble dealing with a 2700 meter that can negate things and just constantly recurs to the board is really, really good. But there was a situation where I think I opened Avion with like double Jackal King in one of the rounds, and it was partially, I think, my own fault, but the other thing is you can't summon it if your opponent has like Rivalry or Goes in Out, which kind of sucks, and a lot of decks are side decking and main decking that right now. But Avion I still think is a really good card for negation and whatnot, so I kind of like having it in there. And then, of course, it is, kind of a hand trap format, unfortunately. So we have the 3 effect failures and the 2 Droll and Lockbirds. As I think I mentioned earlier, I did sell my Ash Blossoms at Nationals, so I do not have them, but I plan on picking a play set up again pretty soon. The reason I choose these hand traps, however, is because I feel like they kind of cover a bit of everything. Droll's pretty good against every matchup but Altergeist, and Baylor's kind of in the same boat, because it can be really good against Altergeist, but Ash Blossom just tends to get the job done better. So I tend to side some of these out against Altergeist, but overall I really do like having this lineup of hand traps. Valor not being once per turn is big because it's good against Goki, because if they do happen to have some kind of extender, you can have the second Valor to stop their play. And Droll's obviously, really, really strong, but I hate having to play this many hand traps because, I'm not used to it. But I do feel like, if you don't have Ash Blossoms, this is probably the best lineup for you. But I do like having them. If you want to play a more Go First build, though, you can play things like Curtain Raiser that help to extend your plays. Then we have 2 Pot Desires. Again, like, this deck needs its draw power, it needs its combo, it needs to get to extra combo pieces to do its crazy things. And actually, unfortunately, there was one instance where I did draw the second Desires off Desires at the regional, and shit happens. But that's the first time it's happened in years, but I still love the card to pieces, and I really do think that it's really good. Then for the rest of the spells, the 1 Foolish, the 1 Dragon Shrine, the 2 Pendulum Calls, I pretty much swear by this ratio of 2, because I do want to see it, but you don't really ever want to see it at multiples in your hand. So, and it is, well, not as many people are, typically other things will get Ash, but this is an instant, thing that will get Ash, so you kind of have to play carefully with it. But I really do like this lineup. I don't think you need more than 1 Dragon Shrine because you are at a 40 card deck. So next we'll kind of talk about the side deck a bit. So I do we had 2 Ghost Ogres, so these, I've seen a lot of people moving these back into the main, but my issue with them is that they're not very good against some of the other decks. Like Sky Striker variants, this card is terrible against. And against Goki, they can usually chain block it. There's only really one particular instance when they have the Firewall with the Mermaid underneath it that you can Ogre and it be really good. And that's the problem I have with the card. It can be pretty good on Assault as well, but it's only super really good if you're playing against another Pendulum deck. But that being said, I do still think it deserves some space in the side deck because it can be pretty good against a lot of Rogue and other decks. But that's why it's inside. And then I still have, for kind of some more back row disruption, we did Twin Twisters and Denko Sucka. These kind of cover different situations. Denko is really good against decks like, you know that if you're playing at Trickstar Sky Striker, this card is going to do the work for you because all their back row is chainable. And Twin Twisters usually goes against decks that kind of are going to side in floodgates because that's the main thing, is you don't want them establishing those floodgates. So I do kind of like having both, but it is a bit overkill to have both. So it's really up to you. You could, play out something else if you feel like it. Then for some more going first options, so we have 3 Called by the Graves as well as 3 Mind Crush. Mind Crush is one of my all-time favorite trap cards, so, it's personal bias. I do think the card is really, really good but the whole situation is that it wasn't as good as I thought it would be. It can be pretty good against Altergeist because they keep bouncing things to hand. So when they go, you can flip the Mind Crush when they activate the Multi-Faker effect and get rid of it. So that's actually really good. It's good against Evenly Matched, which again Altergeist like to main deck. So I do like it, but I'm still a little iffy on the card. Called by the Grave, however, is really, really good because most of the time when you go first, your hand traps come out and you side these in because it prevents your opponent from disrupting you in the middle of your plays. I don't really have room for it in the main deck in this particular build, but I do like having these. These are the best going first cards I think you could have. It's really up to kind of like how you feel about it. Then for the remaining kind of more backwards, we have 3 red reboots. I still think this card is fantastic. Being able to completely shut down back row, is worth paying the half your life on it, if I'm completely honest. The card is amazing. You're playing Pendulums, so unless you have just an awful hand, you're going second, you should be able to completely smash them with this really, really good card. Then, so now we're going to move on to the extra deck. So I still have the 3 Electromites. There are games where I do go through 3, and I do like, but most of the time I find it's like this. It's kind of, you go through the third, you hit the third one when you go into like turn 3 or 4, and that typically third one will kind of seal the deal for you. They are really powerful, but I'm still a little iffy if I need 3, but there's a lot of times I'm glad I have 3. It is, a very ridiculously powerful card, and I do like having it in there. Then we have one copy, a new addition to the extra deck, which is Witch's Apprentice. This is a new addition. I really do like her so far. So the thinking behind this card is, as I said earlier, a lot of people are main decking things like Rivalry and Gozen Match, or side decking them. And this card is really good against those cards because as long as you have 2, if you're under Gozen, you can just link into this with 2 of your dark monsters and still make a lot of your plays. And even a deck like Altergeist, like while it can, most of the time, unless you're locked under Anti-Spell Fragrance, you can typically push and just put enough monsters on the board to where most of their other cards they have don't matter. And that's the main thing Apprentice can be really good at. This combined with harmonizing Pendulum effects can really just pump up your monsters. I mean, if this is out with your Jackal's already sitting on 2,900, which it just helps to put a lot of pressure on your opponent and helps to play when you're under things like, if your Electromite gets Reapered and things like that. Then we have the 1 Summon Sorceress. So this is one of the newer editions. You have a lot of different ways to make this card. So you can make it with, for example, 2 Electromites or Apprentice and another another Spellcaster type. So it's really easy to make, and I find it's really good when your opponent does, like, say they Veiler or permanence your Electromite. Well, you just link up, you make a second Electromite, do a lot of the same things, and then link into this to grab that piece that the first one was going to get for you. I'm a little iffy on it sometimes because it does feel a little bit overkill, and I don't make it that much. But I think the card is just so good that you kind of have to have it. And for the remainder of the Link lineup, with the 1 Borreload and the 1 Zephyr Metaltron, I don't have Decode Talker, and there are some games where I miss it, but these 2 cards are the best Link monsters I think you can have. Metaltron is really good for being able to allow you to recoup resources, and its monster effect actually can be relevant at times. Being able to use it to banish other, bait out and banish things is really good. And Borreload is really good as well. Being able, obviously, I don't really miss not having Borrelsword, even though Borrelsword get end games on its own. But I do like having, and Borreload can be pretty good again against Altergeists. Then for the rank 4s, we have the 1 Tornado and the 1 Dweller. Dweller is still good, but it's definitely not. It's obvious it can be a game ender against Goki if they can't get their monster effects engraved, because they won't be able to get a lot of their searching out, a lot of their combo pieces, and that's really big. It can be pretty decent against Spiral, but even if the Spiral player is Underdweller, they can just start summoning Tufts and clearing your board. However, Tornado is still pretty decent, and I think it's definitely worth a spot simply because you can pop your own stuff with it as well. So you can, for example, one of the things I'll do sometimes after let's say I have Tornado and Naruto next to each other is I'll detach Jackal King off of this guy and then use Tornado to pop my Black Fang so I can summon the Jackal in the middle of their plays. It's a pretty decent little combo, and I do like the card. It just gives you ways to interact both with your cards and your opponent's cards, and we already showed the Naruto. Negate spells and traps is obviously really good, and Jackal King makes it a lot easier to make. Then we have the one Absolute and the one Vortex. Again, these guys are pretty dang standard. I don't think we have too much to say. Vortex being able to negate things is pretty dang good. Link off Absolute Summon it is good as well. Then for the remaining, we have the 3 Synchros Omega, Ignister, and Clearwing. I admit I don't make Omega as much. A lot of times it's literally just I'm going blind. I don't know what I'm playing against. And that's where Omega can come in really well. And it does put a lot of pressure on your opponent to deal with it when it's on the board, because it is a 2800 body. Ignister, non-target removal does come up a lot. It forces a response on when it activates the effects. That's actually pretty decent. But Clearwing is easily the best of the bunch, because you can clear your opponent's entire back row, and even if they have something else, you can, for example, use its construct-like effect as well. It's pretty dang good, and I really do like having in there. But I don't know if you really need Omega and Ignister as much anymore, but they're just there to have. So anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think of this deck profile down in the comment section below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. This is Orstorm, signing out.